So next up is Daniel Gnad, talking about symmetry breaking in Star-Topology Decoupled search.
Thank you. This is joint work with Alvaro, Alex, and Joerg. And what we did is we combined two methods that have independently been developed to reduce the size of your search space, and we were able to combine them and really get some nice results out of that. So all this is in the context of classical planning with multi-valued variables, so FDR or SAS+. Our running example will be some logistics task that has obviously some symmetries. We need to transport the packages all to the rightmost location, so everything to L4, and we do that by driving the truck and loading, unloading packages. So what you see here is the causal graph of our planning problem, which captures the dependencies between the state variables that are inherent in the preconditions and effect of the actions. So as you see, we have a really nice star topology here because all the packages only depend on the truck and there's no other dependency. So in particular, given an instantiation of the center, like of the truck, all the packages or the leaves in our star topology are conditionally independent. This is an important observation, and now we break these conditional dependencies between the packages by instantiating the center. We do that by only branching over center actions in the search and enumerating all possible leaf movements for each of the leaves separately. In our example, so the center actions are the drive actions, so we only branch over truck drives, and we enumerate all load, unload action sequences that are possible. How do we do that? Well, given an arbitrary sequence of center actions, like drive actions, where in this example we just drive from L1 and do like the circle back to L1. One possible movement of say one of the leaves starting in the left is we load it in the beginning, then we do one drive and we unload it. Another possible movement would be just again loading in the beginning and unloading only later on after two drives. Now for another package, say one starting in the right position, this would be according as for the other package, possible movements that we could choose to do given the sequence of drive actions that we have. And the important observation is no matter which of the paths we choose for the blue package, we are still free to choose any of the paths for the red package because the packages are conditionally independent. And this allows us to maintain all possible movements for each of the packages separately and basically enumerate really all possibilities. Now what we do in practice in search is we don't really keep all these paths, but we only store the price of, the cost of these paths. This is done in the pricing function, which you see here. So basically, this is a decoupled state where you have the center state in the middle that results from a sequence of drive actions. So the truck is in L3, and one such table basically now illustrates all the possible movements of one of the packages. So we can just choose to have it in its initial position because we don't need to do anything to get that. This has a cost of 0. We can choose to load it into the truck. This has cost of 1, and so the price of this fact, like having package 1 in the truck, is 1. And we do that accordingly for all possible assignments of the leaf variables. Now, one way to view such a decoupled state is basically as a set of states. And here we really have to enumerate all possibilities, which is like really 144 different states that are encoded into this one decoupled state here. And how do we get there? Well, basically all of those states have the same center, so the truck is always at L3, and now we enumerate all possibilities across all the packages. So basically, for example, we could choose to have package 1 in the truck, package 2 in the truck, and the same for the packages 3 and 4. This is one member state of this decoupled state. And it has cost of 4, because each of the individual facts, like having the package in the truck, costs us 1. We sum up over all packages, which gives us a total cost or price of 4. Now you can view this set of states really as a kind of hypercube. In our example, this is a 4-dimensional hypercube because we have 4 packages, and the points in this hypercube are all possible combinations of assignments to the packages. So basically one point in this hypercube is really labeled by truck, 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 truck. So all packages are in the truck, and this point in the hypercube has a cost, like an additional annotated cost of 4. Yeah, now let's come to our second ingredient, which is symmetry breaking. Basically, say we have these two states in the search where we have already seen the first one, the left one here. We have it in our open or closed list, and now we see the new state, which is the right one, and there's some symmetry between those states. I mean, we as humans, we see that directly, basically because there's nothing interesting that can happen at L2 or L3. The only thing we want to have is we want to get the packages to L4. So we don't care if the truck drives via L2 or L3. These are symmetric paths, and we don't actually want to enumerate all of them because they also have the same distance to the goal. So what we want to have ideally is we want to prune all states that by some means we can detect are symmetric to states that we have already seen. The question is just how we do that. And the method that I'm going to explain to you is called orbit-based search, where we really, in whatever search we do, a star search or greedy search, we can just prune symmetric operators. So one important question here is how do we actually detect that two states are symmetric? And we do this using the automorphisms of the state space. This is like a set of structural symmetries that map one state into another. So basically one structural symmetry sigma here would say that, well, if you have this state on the left, you can transform it to the state on the right using this structural symmetry so that the states are symmetric and we can prune one of them. An important property of the automorphisms of the state space is that they preserve the goal distance. Otherwise you could not do optimal planning. So next thing is how do we actually detect those symmetries, because we just cannot create all the state space and then to compute the automorphisms, that's intractable. So we need to do that more efficiently. We do this by the problem description graph, which is linear in the size of your problem. Basically it is a graphical illustration of your variables, the values that they can have, and also of all your actions and the preconditions and effects. So for each of those you have particular connections in this problem description graph. And now if you can use an off-the-shelf tool to detect the symmetries in this problem description graph. And this will induce a subgroup of the automorphisms of your state space. And this subgroup we call this gamma. And now the last question is really how do we apply this? So how does that help us in any way in the search? Well, basically we do a hill climbing search over all structural symmetries that we have detected. So the important thing here is that actually our symmetries map states together that are symmetric. So given our automorphisms, our structural symmetries, we can say that a big set of states, so out of this big set of states, all states are symmetric to each other. We call this big set of states the orbit. And what we do in the search is basically we only want to store a single representative, which is called the canonical representative of this big orbit, and only keep this one representative in our search space. We prune all others. Unfortunately, this like computing one single canonical representative is an NP-hard problem, so we need to approximate using this hill climbing approach. Okay, so how do we apply this to decoupled search now? Well, it's a bit weird, right? We don't have like these easy states anymore. We have like this crazy composition of center and pricing function. So what does it mean to apply symmetries on a decoupled state? Well, fortunately, we have this interpretation of the decoupled state as its hypercube, so really as a set of states. And now basically what we can do, we could apply just our symmetries to each of these member states, which results in a set of states that are symmetric to our initial set of states. And then the question is, can we somehow represent this as a decoupled state again? And this is really an important thing, because if we are not able to represent the resulting set of states again as a decoupled state, well, we cannot really run decoupled search, right? So there's some undefined structure. There would be some undefined structure in the decoupled state that we cannot capture, and we're kind of lost. So really, the important thing is that we need to be able to represent the resulting set of states again as a decoupled state. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, basically there's two problems in particular. One is how to detect the subgroup of the automorphisms that also comply with our factoring. So basically what we certainly don't want to have is mix leaf facts with center facts, because we have many leaf facts but only a single center fact, and so this is like causing some strange things. We cannot handle that. So the solution is actually quite straightforward, because given the problem description graph that we have anyway, we just encode our factoring, so our decomposition that we are currently using, into the problem description graph. We do that by simply adding a node for each of our factors, so for the center and for each of the leaves, and we attach all variables that are in this factor to this factor node, and this guarantees us that all symmetries that we find on this modified problem description graph will also not violate like the structure of our decoupled state. And the next question is, of course, how do we then apply this? Because we certainly cannot make this detour here really by enumerating all possible states in the decoupled state, then applying the permutation and then go back. That's like really infeasible, because there are exponentially many states in the decoupled state. So instead, we just modify the pricing function. And what we do, like in this small example here, say we have a symmetry that says for package 2, location 2 and location 3 are symmetric to each other, and then what we're in the standard state space, what you would do is you apply your symmetry and you just set the fact that package 2 is in position 2 to location 3 now, and what we do in decoupled searches, we just swap the prices. So whatever price we have for package 2 in location 2 is swapped to package 2 location 3 and the other way around. A more complex symmetry that we could also handle is, say, if the symmetry or our tool that we run detects that two packages are entirely symmetric. So it says, well, package 3 and package 4 are actually really symmetric in all regards. In this case, in the standard search, what you would do is whatever value you have for package 3, you swap it with the value for the assignment for package 4. So yeah, and the other way around. And what we do in decoupled search is we just swap the entire pricing function. So the pricing function from package 3 becomes the pricing function of package 4, and the other way around. In fact, what we can handle is permutations that are a lot more complex, namely that affect the center, like swapping some center facts. As I said, we cannot swap across center and leaves, but they affect the center, and at the same time also swap something in the pricing function, so in the leaves. We can also handle that. And the resulting algorithm is called decoupled orbit space search. So let's see how it performs. Here are some results of optimal planning where we run blind search and search under LM-cut, where we compare standard search, orbit space search, decoupled search, and against our new method, decoupled orbit space search. And what you see is basically in most of the cases, our new method, our new combination inherits the strength of its components. Like here, orbit search is good in child snack, decoupled search is not. We gain the maximum, we have the maximum of the two basically. There are also cases where mostly decoupled search doesn't perform too well, and the symmetries can somewhat enhance the results, but they cannot really get to the result of pure orbit search. And there are really some remarkable results, for example, here with LM-cut in depots, where the combination does more than just is more than just the sum of its components, right? So there are some really beneficial effects, so that the resulting algorithm is better than its two ingredients. And we also see, here's some runtime and search space size scatter plots, where on the top you see the search space size, so number of expanded states, and on the top, in the bottom it's the runtime. On the left-hand side, we compare orbit space search against our new combination, and you see that really the combination is a lot stronger in general than pure orbit search, both in terms of state space size and also in terms of runtime, though sometimes you see a minor increase of runtime that's just due to the overhead. If you compare decoupled search to the new combination, you see that while the advantage is certainly less pronounced, but you also almost never lose something, right? So there are very few points above the diagonal, which means that which indicate a runtime overhead. Most of them are just like in a rather constant area below the diagonal, which means that we have a runtime factor improvement of 2 to 5 maybe. But what you see is definitely that we also gain lots of instances that could not have been solved before. So finally, I want to show you some results in satisficing planning, where really symmetry reduction has not been applied so much before. But as you see, there's really no reason not to try out, because it works amazingly well. We run greedy best first search with HFF. On the left-hand side, you see results without using preferred operator pruning. On the right, it's with preferred operator pruning. And again, our new combination is mostly at least as good as the component methods. And here's a really amazing result in child snack with preferred operator pruning, where you just solve all instances, and the best component method was only able to solve 14. Again, some search space size and runtime plots. Obviously, in satisficing planning, the gains are usually not that as pronounced as in optimal planning, but still you see that there's certainly a positive trend, no matter against which of our components we compare. So to conclude, we have really successfully integrated symmetry breaking into decoupled search. Intuitively, what this does is really applying a symmetry on a set of states represented as a decoupled state. The results are really quite amazing, and also we have some nice theoretical results, which you have also seen in the table. But you can really have planning domains where the combination of the two is actually exponentially better than any of the two ingredients. Thank you.
I have a question to the results you have shown for optimal planning. Then you have shown that pure orbit search is sometimes better than combining it with decoupled state, like in elevators, for instance. Mm-hmm. It's really pronounced. Do you have an explanation for that?
I mean that's really an artifact of running blind decoupled search on elevators. The problem here is really in the zero cost actions that you have a lot in elevators, and decoupled search cannot handle that really well, because what you will do is, I think you will have all the zero cost actions in the center, and then in the leaves that's the only way how to really spend costs, so how to increase your G value in a star search. And I mean, as you see, as soon as you enable LM cut, so as soon as you use a heuristic, this is really gone. It's really some strange fact that really has to do with the zero cost actions.
Thank you.
Any short questions? No. Then, okay, let's thank the speaker.